I'm Edwina Huang. I am a founder of two companies. First one is called Vivify Textile, and the second one is called Phoenix. These two companies are mostly in the circular fashion and sustainable industry directions, where Vivify Textile actually manufacture recycled material out of waste. For example, you have plastic bottles that is wasted, turn into fiber and recycle fiber and turn into completely new fabric that is out of plastic bottle from waste. And the second company, Phoenix, is actually focusing on turning waste material like clothes that we don't wear or any discarded material, and then separate the fiber in a chemical recycling solutions and turn them back into new fiber again. So they're both it's in the same industry, but they are in the different stages of the supply chain. I would already have my meeting set up, through the weeks, 1 or 2 weeks in advance. When I do come into the office, I always have a to-do list. I have a couple of interesting way of doing this because sometimes people write down to-do lists on a piece of paper, but I will actually categorize them and put them directly in my timetable and turn it into different colors. So for example, if I have a regular operational meeting with my team, they will be in green color. If it's in accounting, it's in blue color. Or anything I have to do with, let's say, marketing, I have a different color. So you can have a look in the whole calendar throughout the whole week. You know that what sort of color taking most of your time in specific function of the company. But again, sometimes definitely I have all these other meetings that involve meeting people in person or meeting people online. That's me working in the business, but sometimes you also need to take time to work on the business. So during that day-to-day, I definitely leave time for myself for reading, strategic books. It's never stopping because we don't have a textbook to go by. Through those, I give a bit of room for myself to reflect, okay, what am I targeting this year? Or what am I going to do next year? How can I do based on what I have as a result this year, do a better outcome next year? And then, looking into other factors like political and economics factor, then you make a decision from there. So I would say 90% of the time I'm in the business, but I do have that 10% room to kind of give myself doing on the business. So you're not just fixated in doing one thing, and then you're also evolving at the same time. Leaving uni, I got some great advice from you, Theresa. I didn't start out working directly in the big companies. I also aspire to all these postgraduate or undergraduate programs, try to apply to a lot of them, but there's a lot of competition. The advice I got at the time is I can start out from a small company and evolve from there, and that's exactly my path. I started out from one company. Within a year of working there, I got headhunted to one of the biggest FMCG company. Once I worked there, my intention is just not to just stay in my role, but go to different departments, learn what they do and how your decision can impact other departments. So yes, I was paid to do that job and I do that job really well and I get promoted every year. But at the same time, I also task myself to learn different functions that really build the foundation in terms of how the company runs, and also understand any decision that you make in that role, how it impact other people and impact your job, at the end of the day. But working in a big corporate company also had its downfall because you're just a really small screw of a very large vehicle and it doesn't give any big impact. And for a lot of young people, I guess when they left university, have a very great ambition. 25 years old, I want to conquer the world. The world is my oyster. Why can I not try? Doesn't matter which period of time you were born, everybody has that inspirations to really try to be that linchpin of it all. Start my side business, which is Vivify Textile. But it didn't start directly as a company. It started out as a Kickstarter campaign because I want to test Australia how their perspective in terms of recycled material. And nobody actually knew what recycled fabric is. And they all thought that it was fabric from the thrift shop, like from the secondhand clothing. But little to know, it's actually, plastic bottle turning back into new fabric again through various stages of mechanical process. Women is known to actually, for some reasons, will be the group that will not get funded from investor. It's probably 0.2% that get funded in the world. It's such an unjusted and still happening. And I have been connected with a lot of female entrepreneurs around the world. They all commonly see the same thing. It's not because of our ability. In fact, a lot of studies have shown that female founders are much more capable when it comes down to building their business because they're able to balance most aspects in the company. In the past 5 years, there has been a lot more female-oriented VCs around, and also mostly wanted to fund for female companies and female startups. That's what I see in Europe and in US and in China. And 9 out of 10 businesses actually fail in the first 2-3 years. Most of the time it's because they don't know how to handle cash flow. A lot of the peers that I've met who fail their business or who raise millions of dollars and become, millionaires. I have a large spectrum of entrepreneur friends. First couple of years, like the one that fell is mostly the cash flow issues. They don't know how to handle cash flow. It's very hard. Like I went through the first 5 years without paying myself because everything that I make in terms of profit, I put back into the company and the company keep growing. But it's a really roller coaster experience because not every single business decision that you try to make would actually accelerate a company. But we learned to look at not only just like people's sentiment that they want to spend, but also the geopolitics, the government, total macroeconomics, how every other country works. Then you start making decisions much more conservatively. So many times. But the thing is, at the end of the day, when you kind of calm down, like definitely can make a decision based on your emotional self. I tend to leave the decisions to my sensible self. I would really let my logical sense talk if it's the right thing to do. So there was one period of time that Vivify had a very challenging time. And Vivify was actually flying 200% per year. We make so many orders. That time, we also receive a lot of complaint that the quality is not right. Customer, return complaint, and sometimes some unreasonable one would be like, oh, I'm going to sue you. That was very challenging. Did I ever want to give up that time? Nearly. But I didn't, because when I sit down and be calm, I ask myself, do I want to do this? And then the answer is still yes. But again, you gotta follow your heart though, because if you don't, you're gonna regret. But if that moment I really gave it an up, then I wouldn't have all the other award-winning experience happen at the end. We survived from the cash flow side, but handling sustainable, consistent quality was the hardest thing. But it was always happening for good reasons. All the heartache now I learned is always there's a gift behind. If I can sort the quality issue, everybody trusts me. And tell the customer upfront what went wrong and already give them a solution. Oh, we already addressed it. So whatever you order, you get exactly that and even get more. Who can say no? So in this case, we really build based on this trust and honesty with our customers, with that transparency. That's why the company is still alive, and because of all these old customers are still transacting, coming back to us. I think in this climate, the most important thing before you turn into an entrepreneur is make sure you are self-sustained. At what point you want to go all in, make sure you still work in your job, but when you actually see much more substantial growth in your business, instead of me quitting at the time straight away, think about reducing your hours like 90%, 80%. It's much more safer. But in the environment that I was in, startup was like booming, was like growing everywhere. Everybody want to quit their job and want to be a next, million CEO. So it's a different era. But in this climate, you have to be realistic. As long as that's your passions, because if you want to do something, you got to do it from your heart. You excel a lot better when you do it from your heart and your right intention, because that's truly what you desire. I'm not saying working corporate is not good, but that it gives you the fundamental security layer. Being a human being, have the right level of, the dignity. I was thankful I have working in corporate for quite a long time at the time, and then I make decent incomes. I left my 6 figures and then I went to do this, and I have money saved up that lasts me for quite a long time. But not necessarily everybody have the same spending habit that can really sustain themselves for that many years without earning any salaries. So if you wanted to transition into entrepreneur journey, it must not come from an intention, I want to make more money. It must have come into a transition in terms of what sort of value can I give to other people that they cannot give it to somewhere else. First of all, what are you good at doing? And can you build value based on what only you can do and other people can't do? Or at least you do better than them. Experience is always very important. Some students will like, How do I even get experience when I haven't got hired before? Honestly, it's through internships. You might or might not get paid, but at least you can talk about the experience. I had internship in my university. There was one period of time I was studying full-time, working full-time, and got an internships. It's crazy. That semester could kill myself. But without having that pressure to push myself, I wouldn't know that through that condition, I can still get a distinction in one of my courses. And I was like, where does that come from? If you don't push yourself, you don't know how far you can go. And for me, I like to look into students, for example, in marketing. If they, let's say, for example, for social media, did you have any social media experience? Some of the students, they said like, oh, I used to have been at some club. I ran the social media program, or I previously was in this association, in the student association. That's a good start. Yes, it might not get paid, but at least it means that you know how to post, you know what to do, you know how to edit as a fundamental. That is at least you try. In terms of marketing, sometimes I also look into different perspective. Like for example, some marketing students, they're very structured in their thinking. And some students, they're probably coming in a background that also study film. Then they think differently. Like they're trying to think of how am I going to do this campaign in a storytelling pieces. And that actually ended up becoming very effective. Like this is how I just talked about skill set. But what actually works the most is attitude. Sometimes I will also give opportunity to students who show me so much great attitude, a way that they are very hungry to learn. I give you an example. I had two interns. One is Japanese American and one is Hispanic from US. Went to the same school and they came to my company as an intern program. The Hispanic doesn't do anything. That gave a lot of bad energy to the other. And the Japanese American, such a hardworking guy, came to the office even before me. Like my office open at 9, sit there at 8:40, 8:50, waiting for me to open the door. And the rest turn up on time. That Hispanic never did. Like it's just that little thing like that help. And for example, I would ask question in the interview. What if there's a challenge in your job? How did you overcome it? What did you do to resolve it? If people can't give me an example, then I wouldn't take it. If they can't even be substantiating, really give me the detail, then lying. But if people really have done it, the hard yards, and know how hard it is, and still able to find way to resolve it, that's a merit. I will also ask a question about pushing boundaries in terms of thinking. What do they do when they don't know how to do? It's at the end of the day, your work ethic that define your work attitude, whether you're willing to try and learn. You get to learn on a job. But do you have that ability to learn on your own if there's no one there to help you? This quality, I can see this through the interview. Then even though they don't have the experience, I will give them an exception because this person shows me she or he will really try to do what they can do. And there was one guy, he did that. That guy was an American guy, introverted, never done social media and marketing. But in the interview, I see a side of him that he's willing to try, even though he's introverted. Other student doing social media posts, he's one to perform the best because he was thinking outside of the box. If they don't have the experience, then you need to showcase your qualities that you are willing to learn. You are open to push some of these barriers. That's where I give two examples. One example, like some people, they have experience. I would much more likely take them. But the one that have not got any, you can't win the recruiter through your skills. But what you can win is through the attitude. It is hard to measure. You don't know what the recruiter is looking for. But you can definitely ask in the interview question, like, what are you looking for as a quality of the intern? The Texas American guy, he won me over is because through some of his story that he told me, he was willing to be above him. Then I see the potential. And the very hard part for the young student is AI can do better job than them. Why don't you then start to play with this AI tool and be fast enough to be good at using AI to get your job done? That is a great asset. I knew somebody turned himself completely different career through the help of AI, really excel in his role. from a lawyer to developer. Just completely changed the career. So if you guys are so tech savvy, why don't you guys learn how to use the AI so well and use your judgment, make a better campaign? But the fundamental of marketing is something that AI cannot do. Always the intention telling the story. Robot cannot give an intention. They follow what you can do. But how good the campaign is, the message that you're trying to put across, the emotional side got to use the human component.